everybody. Welcome to this week's Heart of CX podcast. My name is Max Ball, and I am joined today, as always, with Joanna Palmer. And Joanna, you've got a guest, so tell us all about things.
Max, we have a guest.
We have a well.
And
You brought the guest. How's that?
yes, true. So excited about our guest today. Renee Harwood Sousa, the industry principal at Ring Central for Retail, is with us today. Renee, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I'm so excited to be here. I have been in retail an awful long time, long enough to get the expert at the end of the name, but most of that has been blood, sweat, and tears in stores and in IT infrastructure departments. Most recently for Gymboree, which is a children's clothier of three brands that was recently acquired by a whole bunch of different companies. Prior to that, it was Gap stores and their brands. And also, I've been in Levi Strauss and Mervyn's, and I started originally in consumer product goods with Procter and Gamble.
Awesome. So you've been around the retail block and then some.
Oh, I have, and I think the nice part about it is this is my first year out of retail in decades, and the reason I actually left retail was because I had a paradigm shifting project. Not it wasn't roll. I had many rollouts of point of sale. I had many rollouts of payment devices, et cetera, in stores. But I actually rolled out collaboration for cloud communication. And it was such a paradigm shifting move for me and for my stores that I really felt like I needed to go out and evangelize and talk about what it can do for both not only just the retailer, but just the store associate as well as the infrastructure team, who I think is awfully burdened in the retail environment. And it was just such a shift for me that I really wanted to talk more about it.
That's awesome. So now that you're a year out of the retail business, I'm just thinking of all the firsts you missed, and all the firsts you
I
missed. And what if you missed those if you were in the retail business because of COVID? So how did COVID most immediately affect retail and customer experience?
Well, it's funny that you say that because clearly I was so looking forward to my first year out of Black Friday.
Yeah. Yes.
Little did I know what back to school was going to be, what Black Friday was going to be, what all of it. So peak season and freeze were a whole different beast last year. But the most immediate thing I think that happened with the shutdown was I'd have a tendency to believe that the best of people come out in the worst of times. And retail is like that. I think it's why I've stuck with retail as long as I have, is because you hear me use the word scrappy or plucky a lot, but we reinvent constantly in the retail environment, and we just do so much with so little. And so when we had the COVID, not just the warnings, the shutdowns, everything that came at us, the CDC, restrictions and accommodations. Retailers just kept finding their way, and especially you all know your small businesses nearby. You just watched them go through this, and whether it was a face shield or a plastic guard, what was going on. We all just kind of came together. And everybody worked. I mean, a lot of businesses didn't make it. I think that there was success. Like I said, I often say success and failure are not equally distributed. So some organizations came out of it wildly successful, learning how to do much more with less. And so we look forward to that and how that evolves over the next year.
Awesome. Awesome. So with that, you mentioned that retail's scrappy. I like to think of it as retail's innovative, just a flip side of the coin. And so with all of that scrappiness that had to happen during COVID, I think it really has changed the landscape of retail forever. In terms of, this wasn't just a response to the immediate. And so I want to spend the majority of the time today talking about what retail of the future looks like as we think about contact centers and customer experience. What does that look like in the retail space?
I think there's a lot to be looked at here. I think that the new digital channels have changed everything. The adoption, whether it be a small organization. I'm now on the enviable position of being able to see thousands of customers and retail customers and seeing what they're doing. So it's really, it's just a joy to see how everybody is plugging into the new digital channels, how they're looking at forward inventory, how they're looking at off store environments. Everything is coming into a different purview, if you will. And I think the the short term trend of everybody calling in curbside pickup went up 200% last year. No big surprise. Curbside's not going to go away, right? We got addicted.
Right.
We just have to do it
Yeah.
better. We have to do it better. We have to be more finessed with how we do it. Everybody did it their own way. Some better than others, but those are things that some trends that are happening that are not going to go away.
And thinking about curbside overall, it was introduced before COVID hit.
Right.
Had a
Right.
had a little bit of adoption by those early those early embracers from a retail side. And so, what do you think that looks like further down the road? Where do you think we can improve curbside?
Well, I'm not saying anything that you don't know because you've done it. Max has done it. You'll be very hard pressed to find somebody who hasn't done drive-through, curbside, or buy online, pick up in store over the past 12 months, right? Or ship to home over the past 12 months. Those are all the same, ostensibly all the same delivery systems, just in a little bit different packaging. Where if for my store environment, I had 1,300 stores, and for us, we actually were doing buy online, pickup in store, or BOPUS, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and we did it in like I say, in a very scrappy way. We figured out how to get people at the curb with telephones, and then that way, mothers didn't have to come in to pick up their packages when they had a bunch
Mm.
of littles in the car.
Yeah.
So that's really the kind of stuff that we just think people are going to continue to want to have. So I think that that's kind of again, simplifying what already got put into place last year. This year it's going to be about returning merchandise, potentially even upselling, getting exchanges at curbside, at point of pickup, right?
Mm.
Which we didn't have last time. I talk a little bit about Chili's. Chili's has been doing curbside forever. And,
Yeah.
back in the day, I think we thought, how lazy do you have to be that you can't walk inside? Well, when you got, first of all, when you're back in Minnesota and it's 25 below, it's okay if somebody else delivers the food to my car. And then you've
Yeah.
got littles, you've got elderly people, you've got all kinds of different needs for that. It's not just a luxury anymore. And so Chili's did it fabulous. They just off the hook. They had it out the door, really fast. Now what they're able to do is have the communication at the store or at the car door. And when you say, I want cheesecake after all, they can call in and say, have a cheesecake at the front desk and I'll pick it up. Or you can say, no, there's cilantro on this. Got to change it, right?
Mm.
Well, that just pivot that to Home Depot, and I wanted the gilded mirror, not the silver mirror you know and
Yes.
like I say, I don't want to see that poor store associate say, I'll take care of you and be gone for 45 minutes, right? i
Yes.
Right.
want the I want it to be done more seamlessly. I want them to call into the store and say, inaccurate fulfillment, we need a replacement, pull a gilded mirror for this gal.
Yes. I love that idea. And I don't know about the both of you, but grocery substitute items are such a pain point sometimes. Yes, I want that item substituted if you're out of stock for a like item, but for instance, Chick-fil-A sauce and honey mustard are not anywhere near in the same
Right.
family.
Right.
And so every week I would order Chick-fil-A sauce on the grocery list for the kids. And 3 weeks in a row, I'm getting honey mustard, honey mustard, honey mustard, and just piling them up in the cupboard, knowing they'll never get eaten. And finally, I stopped ordering Chick-fil-A sauce. So, yes, and it causes that friction. But if you were able to say real time, no, take this back, let's try this or this instead. Or real time when they're fulfilling your order, what a better customer experience that would be.
Well, and so I have a large family, and I love asking them about all their experiences every time they go into a store. And I am really shocked at the ones, like I say, who have the littles, and when they get their call from, um, from a fresh food delivery, they'll say, Bobby, you normally like to get wet wipes. They have been out. During COVID, they were gone. Everything was gone. You normally like to get wet wipes. You don't have it on your list, but I do see that they're in. Should I grab you a pack? And I'm like, I cannot believe that they're having this conversation with her. And this is just her personal shopper. And it was brilliant. And I saw more and more of those conversations as the months went on.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, and making it convenient and easy. That's so huge.
But that's a
Um,
conversation, isn't it? It's a
it is
conversation.
a
It's
conversation.
not a click
Yes.
and collect, as we say in the UK. It's not click and collect because I think that's you talk about what's going to change this year. That's what's going to change is that while people they would love to have a seamless online digital
Mhm.
experience. The reality is very often 6 peaches ends up being 6 pounds of peaches. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
You
my wife
know,
had one of those. Um,
yes, yes, our
do
neighbor
tell.
had one of those. Facebook page, hey, my 6 bananas turned into 6 bunches. You need some.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
it actually was bananas that happened with us, and I got really sick of bananas. But
I bet you
the
did.
other piece of this that strikes me is it's a conversation, but in order for it to be a useful conversation, there's got to be a whole lot of data underlying. Because you and I can chat all we want, but if I don't know that you used to buy the wet wipes and now they're back in stock, I can't have that conversation.
And that's on the Joanna side. That's the customer experience side, right? So if you're not tracking your customers as well as you should be, I think that that's where the focus really needs to be. Is the customer? What does the customer like? What's the customer experience about?
Right.
The supply chain is imperative. We're never going to get the supply chain um, perfect and transparent and predictable the way that we have fought for decades in retail. We put in warehouse management systems, we put in order management systems. We are sure that they're going to be integrated, and 9 times out of 10, something wonky goes on when it gets put on the shelf. So our inventory is a constant struggle. But the customer, tracking the customer and the customer purchases, that is really, to your point, Max, what and Joanna, where the gold lies, right? That, and I think artificial intelligence is working really hard to do that. I get such a kick out of my Amazon picks after I buy one, baby book for sushi. How everything changes. And it's like,
Right,
no,
right.
it was a gift for Pete's sakes. I'm not now buying all things sushi. Again, it goes back to how you're tracking your customers and how adequately you're capturing their needs.
Yes, yes. And going back to the point you made earlier, Renee, it's validating that
Mhm.
and having that conversation. So leveraging the data plus the conversation to really make sure that
Right.
your AI is tuned properly. What does it look like from a contact center perspective in retail? Let's say retail, you know, today through the next 5 to 10 years, where do you see the contact center going?
Well, I alluded to this a little bit earlier with Max, but for me, I have this penchant and passion for the fact that I've always kind of considered stores to be mini call centers and contact centers. And the reason I say that is because what I have seen over the decades is that the store associate, and I'm talking about your 16-year-old kid. right? All the way to who I refer to as the Walter, who's been in the store for 100 years and would never in a million years, pick up a zebra device and learn it inside and out. But Walter knows everything about the tool set in the back. So all of those store associates are um, are brilliant at their product. They're brilliant at their knowledge, and so they have become the experts in the product that's current in the store. The contact center has become, now especially over the past 12 months, has become digitally engaged in a way that we could
Mhm.
never have anticipated. And so the digital channels have made the contact center almost a social media selling agency, right? And the digital engagement, and I will call that cloud communication in the stores, have made the stores a more fully contact or customer servicing engagement center. So I'll give you an example. When you walk into a store and you go to the shelf where the air fryer is supposed to be, and it says it was there online, and the kid that's closest to you walks over and says, it's where it's supposed to be. The first thing he does is he pulls out his own phone and he starts shopping for you at a different store, right? Isn't that not true? And
Yeah, yeah,
and so the bottom line is, what are you going to do to tool that guy? How are you going to give him the tools he needs to help you get what you want? And that's why it needs to be a miniature customer engagement center in the store. So if the experience now is that the kid walks in for his shift and he picks up a handheld, and the handheld is a telephone and it's a web browser and it's everything. It's a Zebra device, it's a Motorola, it doesn't matter, but he is capable of saying, it's not here. I'm going to call the stockroom and see if it's back there. I'm going to call the neighboring town and see if it's at that store. We're empowering him to do that. And it sounds like it's a little out there, but the reality is they're doing it on their own phone and we don't want them doing that.
right, right.
Right. So
Right,
it's
right.
pushing them to the desired path.
And thinking about the power in the voice of the customer and
Mm,
identifying the areas of friction, the closer you get to the customer, the better that data would be. I'm thinking from a context center customer engagement perspective, applying analytics to those conversations between store associate to store associate. Imagine the gold that's there within your organization. And going back to what you had mentioned, I think, Max, in terms of just overall data with AI and knowing what you prefer, and knowing that, Renee, what you had mentioned with hey, your buying preference is wet wipes and we're almost out. Imagine taking that one step further and enhancing the employee experience as well as the customer experience to identify the friction areas and remove those in the store. I just, thinking about that has me so excited.
well, and you said it more appropriately, the interaction analytics, right?
Right.
Yes,
The analysis of the conversations going on from store associate to store associate, from store to store, right? If you could capture that gold, that would just be, and that's when I talk to our customers now. What I say is, sure, you get visibility to performance. Telephones don't sell goods for the most part, right? Unless you're in a contact center and they're calling in for that. But in the store environment and in the actual brick and mortar, they don't normally, it's usually more of a provisioning, it's a commodity in the store, and you got to recognize that. So, other than just looking at system performance, you have to be able to look at it from a reporting and a dashboard and a line of business, and really start getting some intuitive data out of what's going on. And that's often, to your point, visualizing the store associates AI, right? what what are
yeah,
those guys? I mean, I get a kick out of you've got one child working in a store today. You know,
yes,
how does this bode to their experience, in your opinion?
yes. So they can't stand doing online returns in the store. Like, they try to avoid it like the plague. Number one, it's too hard. the online experience isn't married to the brick and mortar experience yet. We're
Right.
not there yet. And so that's a lot of friction. And so she's like, I'm not even going to learn this. It's a once a week type of deal. I'll call my manager over every time and he
Smart.
can take care of it. Yeah, yeah. But in the same respect, there are areas that she loves. She loves signing customers up for those credit cards and just
Oh,
being able to upsell. I think we've got a little salesperson
loyalty.
on our hands.
A little
Yeah,
loyalty program going on there. And
yes,
that's the
yes,
point is identifying, and I got to be honest with you, even identifying low adoption workflows within the store are key to making sure that the right people are doing the right things. It doesn't make
yes.
sense to have your summer staff come in and learn some intricate, balanced inventory program where they're going to have to, reconcile at the end of the day. If she's got loyalty down, put her up front. You know, I
Right.
mean, speak to their strengths, and that's store, internal store usage data. That's store to headquarters, store to DC, store to manager on duty, and store to field leadership. They should be able to drill down and make actionable items from those.
Excellent. Like just the amount of data and using that data in such a way to improve the employee experience, the customer experience, the store's operational efficiencies. I mean, we are just at the tip of this. And
Right.
just this conversation has me so excited to think of stores 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and what that transformation could look
Absolutely.
like. So, from a retail perspective, Renee, my first thought is you can't afford to stand still at this point if you're in retail. What would you say from an insight perspective and what your recommendations would be for a store?
Well, I think that you hit on it. The two major pieces are going to be the data, right? And the analytics, regardless of how you get those analytics, in order to look inventory forward, right? We are doing extremely well as an industry. We're 5.5% up um, over last year, only in the first 4 months of this year, according to National Retail Federation. And so we are doing better than we would ever have anticipated. And that's not even including the service and experience portion of the retail market. That's just consumer products goods. So once we start getting out there and doing those vengeance trips and vacations that we've been dying to do, we'll see a lot more spend happening. And I think that the most important thing for retailers today is just really to try and figure out where their communication platforms are and to make sure that they're making them as flexible and agile as possible. And I don't care if that's your digital channels, if that's your telephone, if you've got cloud telephony. Cloud telephony is uh, such a win from the standpoint of how easy it is to turn up, how inexpensive it is, and how flexible it is. So as we come to, and I will say, we are a little concerned about the fall. Will there be another round of
Mm.
flu? What does that look like? We're already preparing. In retail, we prepare years in advance. A lot in the apparel industry, we're already working on spring and summer of next year or winter of next year. I think that'll also come into line as well. But I think the most imperative thing is just to know that as we go into the next seasons and into the peak season that we are normally looking for a giant share of our revenue at the end of the year, that the initiatives need to be flexibility. They need to be secure. Where we were not as secure over the last year, that security has to get tightened up. We can no longer free is not an option anymore. Free was fine for a while, but now we need to look at our service level agreements and we need to look at who's going to help us really come to the table and secure some of those channels that we put in place that were scrappy and easy. Now we need to put in the cemented path behind the desired path.
Excellent. On that note, I think that wrapped it up. Thank you so much, Renee.
Thank
Max,
you.
is anything you want to add?
I'm gonna echo the thank you so much. It's fascinating to me I'm more on the technology side and less on the retail side. So it's fascinating to me all the conversations that happen in a store that are never captured. Whereas
Oh, I
when
know.
you're in a contact center, it's all recorded. And
Absolutely.
just Renee, when you started talking about capturing more and more of that, that's that's just really interesting and really everything
Yeah.
is really interesting and really exciting.
Yeah.
But that was just one specific
Yeah.
point I thought I'd highlight.
Yeah.
So
Joanna, make sure you ask your daughter what days are best to shop and what times are best to shop. They're the ones who'll tell you the real skinny.
yeah, there you go.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
When things get
Absolutely.
refreshed. So,
Yes.
congratulations on having a new little retailer for the summer.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you again.
All right.
And thanks
Thank you.
everybody for tuning in.
Thanks a lot.